Hello everyone, my name is Hannah. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a book haul. So these books I have here are all the books that I got in the months of April, May, and June. So some of the books that I hauled in those months I have since unhauled. So I'm not even going to mention those. If I bought them in April, May, or June and I've already unhauled them, it's like they never existed. But these are all of the books that I've hauled and kept in those months. I'm also not really gonna do like a synopsis of them. I might give like a little brief like sentence of what they're about or what genre they are even, because most of these I have already read. Some of them I have not read yet, but most of them I have already read, but I don't wanna, it's not a wrap up, so I don't wanna go into like what they're about. If you're curious, you can always look it up on Goodreads or check out my wrap ups, even though I give really crappy synopses, so your call on that one. I would recommend Goodreads. All right, so first up, I have a series that I bought, and that is the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy by Laini Taylor. I have already read this series in the past. It's been a while since I've read them, but I kind of wanted to do a reread, and I wanted these really pretty covers. I did not realize that they were the UK paperbacks, so they're like kind of stiff, but that's okay. They're really pretty. Like, there's the first book, Daughter of Smoke and Bone, and then Days of Blood and Starlight, and then Dreams of Gods and Monsters. So, like I said, I've already read these, and I really, really loved them when I read them years ago, probably like 4 or 5 years ago. But I just really love Laini Taylor's writing, and I've been kind of thinking about this series a lot and wanting to reread them, so I picked them up. Then I also impulse bought the Blue Fairy book by Andrew Lang. This is one of those like really pretty Barnes & Noble editions with the end papers and the golden edges and like the foiled pretty cover and the ribbon bookmark. I was literally right when I walked in the door of Barnes & Noble, it was just sitting there and I saw the word fairy out of the corner of my eye and I was like, I love fairies. So I picked it up and kind of flipped through it, and there's some like illustrations in it, and it's just like a collection of fairy stories. And I just think that it's really pretty and I wanted it on my shelf, so I bought it. Then I picked up the graphic novel Sheets by Brenna Thumler. This is a cute little graphic novel about a ghost and a girl who like runs her family's laundromat. And the ghost like literally looks like a sheet. It's really cute. It's just like a little middle grade graphic novel, and I really loved it. I definitely want to pick up the next one. Okay, not a wrap up. I thought this was really cute though, and I've heard good things about it, so I wanted to read it because I haven't been picking up as many graphic novels as I have in the past, and I really love graphic novels, so I wanted to pick them up. If you have any other recommendations that are like similar to this kind of cuteness, let me know. Dang, I unhauled like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of the books that I bought in April, I have already unhauled. Next up is Rogue Protocol by Martha Wells. This is book 3 in the Murderbot Diaries. It's just like a little short science fiction novel about a robot security unit. But I want to make my way through this series, and so after I read one book, I usually pick up the next book or buy the next book. So I was on to the 3rd book. I think there are 6 books out now, but I haven't picked up the next book yet, but I definitely will. Then we have my book of the month book for April, and that was People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I read Beach Read by Emily Henry last year and gave it 5 out of 5, so I was highly anticipating this book, and I was really happy to see that it was a book of the month pick, even though I kind of prefer my like romance books like this to be in paperback. I don't know, something about that. But I think that the hardcover is really cute. I know the paperback is just as cute. It's the same cover, but I picked this one up from Book of the Month because I was super excited about it. And it's like the perfect summer romance, so. Then I picked up the Virago Book of Witches, which is edited by Shahrukh Hussain, I think. And this book is just absolutely stunning. It's like one of those, like the Blue Fairy book, where it's just like so pretty that I just want it on my shelf even if I don't like sit down and read the whole thing. But it's basically just a collection of stories about witches and like witch lore and stuff like that. And I have read a few stories, like I'm not far in it by any means, but I just kind of want to pick it up whenever I'm in the mood for like a witch tale and just read, you know, a story or two at a time. I just think that it's going to be really interesting to go through and read like all these different cultures, like tales about witches. So, and it's cute. Then I got The Crown of Gilded Bones by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is book 3 in the From Blood and Ash series, and I was highly anticipating this because I read the first 2 books earlier this year, and I thought that this was going to be the final book. I thought that it was going to be a trilogy, so I was expecting a conclusion, and so I was like getting through it like, this is not going to wrap up in the next 100 pages. Like, what is going on? And then I found out that it's going to be like a 6-book series. So I was like, what in the world? This isn't concluding anything. We're just getting more questions. And that was on me. That was on me. This next book my husband bought for me, and that is Horrid by Katrina Leno. This has been getting a lot of hype recently. It's just like a spooky book, but I wanted to get this book because it was Jody's Patreon book club pick. Jody from Vanilla Moon, I subscribed to her Patreon, so I wanted to participate in her book club, and this was, I think this was the first book. Was this the first book? Maybe it was the second book. I don't remember. It was for her book club that she does on Patreon. And then another series that I bought is the Shadow and Bone series. Obviously, it's been getting a lot of hype because of the Netflix show. I read these, again, years ago, and I must have unhauled my copies of them and just kept Six of Crows. I just wanted to have them in case I wanted to reread them or flip through, and like, I don't know. I just wanted to have them, so I bought them because they were like $20 for the box set of the trilogy. So that's that. Then I actually already unhauled my book pick for Book of the Month for May, but I did an add on that month, which was Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. This is like a classic witch book from the 90s, and I wanted to read this before I watched the movie, and I really wanted to watch the movie, so I was like, all right, I need to get to it so that I can finally do it, because it's been actual years that I've been saying, like, I need to read the book before I can watch the movie. And yeah, I picked it up, and then I watched the movie. The movie was better. Sorry, not sorry. Next, I picked up The Traitor Queen by Daniel L. Jensen. This is book 2 in the Bridge Kingdom series. I think the series is going to continue, but these first 2 books follow Lara, the main character, and Aaron, who's like the king of the Bridge Kingdom. But I think that the next books will follow different characters, and honestly, I just don't care to continue after this book. This wrapped up cleanly enough that I don't really feel the need to continue and read it, so I'm looking at this as if it's just a duology, but there are going to be more books coming out following different characters. But the first book left off on a huge cliffhanger, and so I wanted to know what happened with these characters. And it was just a really quick fantasy romance read, more heavy on the fantasy than on the romance. Like, the romance is definitely a huge part of the plot, but definitely more of like a character plot-driven book than a romance-driven book, if that makes sense. Then the next 2 books that I bought were A Game of Fate and A Touch of Ruin by Scarlett St. Clair. I read A Touch of Darkness in March. So I bought A Touch of Darkness in March, but I didn't read it until May. And so then after I read it, I wanted to pick up the next books. A Game of Fate is A Touch of Darkness, but from Hades' perspective, and it adds a lot more plot, a lot more things that you like don't get when you're in Persephone's perspective. Like, there was a lot more going on in this book than just like repeating the same scenes just from Hades' perspective, although it does do that, but it was actually really fun to read that. I don't know, something about seeing the other characters' perspective so you can see what they're thinking, and you know, I don't know. I really liked this one, and I think it's worth the read if you liked A Touch of Darkness. It definitely adds more to the overall story. And then I wanted to read the next book. Again, this will be from Persephone's perspective, so A Touch of Ruin. I have not read this one yet, and I know that the 3rd book like just came out, I think in May, but I'm pretty sure there's another book from Hades' perspective that I think is between this book and the 3rd book, so I'll probably be picking that one up after I read this one. But I really liked the Hades Persephone retelling that this did because it was more modern, and I just like Hades and Persephone retellings in general, so I picked those up. Then I had to pick up Heartstopper Volume 4 by Alice Oseman. This isn't out in the US, but I have all of the UK editions of the first 3, and so I was like, I'm just gonna keep going with that. Like, these don't have like the color on the inside that the US editions have, but the US edition doesn't release for like months now, and I was not gonna be waiting months to read the 4th volume here. So I got it from Book Depository, and I'm really happy that I did, although this was my least favorite in the series. It's not like I didn't like it, it just wasn't my favorite of the series. But it's still really, really cute, and Alice Oseman she just does a great job with everything. The storytelling, her art is beautiful, like, I just love it. So yeah, I pre-ordered this as soon as I saw it on Book Depository. All right, next up, I'm going to talk about all of the Penelope Douglas books that I picked up. I didn't buy them all in May. I bought some of them in May, some of them in June, but I'm just going to talk about them all at once. So the first book that I picked up was Punk 57, and I absolutely adored this book. I finished it and then immediately picked it up for a reread, and I annotated it. This one's a bully romance. It's like first they're friends, then they hate each other, and then they're lovers kind of thing. And I just love this book so much that I was like, okay, I loved the writing in this. I loved the story. I need to have more from Penelope Douglas, and luckily she has a huge backlist, so I picked up several other books by her. But this one just has a special place in my heart. I adored it. And then next I picked up Birthday Girl, which is an age gap romance. It's a girl falling for her boyfriend's dad, so it's a bit taboo, and there is like I said, a big age gap. She's 19 and he's 38, so he's literally like twice her age. And I absolutely loved that. Reading this made me realize that I'm kind of a sucker for taboo, because I was here for all of the like will they won't they kind of thing, like the hey, we shouldn't be doing this. I loved it. So then I got even further sucked in because I'm like, both Penelope Douglas books that I picked up, I've loved. So June 3rd, Trist 6 Venom got released by Penelope Douglas, and I read this on an ebook because it was like to complete one of my TBR challenges, but obviously I wanted to have the physical copy on my shelf, and it's actually huge. It was over 500 pages, I think. Oh yeah, like over 550 even, almost 570, dang. I think this cover is absolutely gorgeous. I love the colors and the like photographs in the background. This is another bully romance. I started following Penelope Douglas on Instagram then, and she was saying like, this is perfect for fans of Punk 57, and I was like, excuse me, that's me. She's talking directly to me. So I was so hyped for this, and it did not let me down. I absolutely loved this book. This is also a sapphic romance. Just so good. I also picked up Credence by Penelope Douglas. This is probably her most taboo book, or her most like controversial book. It even says like in the back in her author's note that she really wanted to push the envelope with this one, and she didn't want to just be churning out the same romance books all the time, like the same plot line and the same formula. So she wanted to mix it up, and boy did she, because this is a romance between a girl and 3 men. So you kind of spend the whole book like wondering who she's gonna end up with in the end. It's also taboo because it's her step uncle and step cousins, so they weren't actually like, they never grew up together, they never met, so it's not so taboo because they're basically strangers to her. It's her dad's stepbrother and then his kids, his 2 sons, and yeah, so they never really met. I guess it's taboo because the step uncle there's that age gap there. And at the beginning of the book, she's still under the age of 18. Like, she's only like 10 weeks out from turning 18. So she's pretty much there, but still it's kind of like I don't know. There's a little bit of uncomfiness there with that. But yeah, this one really made it clear that Penelope Douglas is so good at writing an emotional storyline or an emotional plot line amongst all of like the romance scenes and the smutty scenes, because this was an emotional ride. Then I have Bully, which I'm currently reading. This I think was her first book that she ever wrote, and obviously it's another bully romance, and this is part of like a series, like a companion series. So I'm currently reading this one right now, probably going to be finishing this one today at some point, maybe tomorrow. But there are other books in the series which I don't have the physical copies of because they're really hard to find. And if you know anybody who wants to give up their fall-away physical copies, please contact me because I've been looking for them everywhere. I've already ordered Rival, which I'll put up on the screen somewhere. So I was able to find that one. So that should be coming in the mail today, actually. So that's another one that I'm hauling. I also bought Until You, which is Bully, but written from the guy's perspective, Jared's perspective. A lot of Penelope Douglas's books have dual perspectives, but Bully is just from the main character's perspective, and so you don't get to really see inside the head of why he's bullying her and like why he's doing what he's doing and what his thoughts are at certain points, which I really like to see. So I'm super curious to see from his perspective for that book. But the books after that, the third book, which is called Falling Away, and then the two novellas, I can't remember what those are called. But I can't find the physical copies of them anywhere. They're like on eBay for over $100, and I just can't pay $100 for a 100-page book. So I did get the ebooks for them, but I really want the physical copies because I want to have a shelf with all the Penelope Douglas books, because obviously she's quickly become one of my new favorite authors. So yeah, if you know anybody that doesn't want their Fall Away books anymore, I will happily take them off your hands. I'll pay for them, I'll pay for shipping, whatever. I want them. I also picked up Corrupt. This is another first book in a spin-off series, or not a spin-off series, like a companion series where each book follows a different character. I've heard that this series gets really, really dark, and it's pitched as like a dark romance suspense novel. So I'm really curious to see what goes down in here. I'm interested to see like how dark it's gonna get, but it's Penelope Douglas, so I'm expecting to absolutely love it. So then all the Penelope Douglas books put me into such a like romance mood that I picked up From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. This was my first Mariana Zapata book, and it definitely won't be my last because I loved this book. Such a slow burn romance, and I was here for it, so I'm really excited to pick up her other books. But yeah, this I think was a good one to start with because it was super cute. And then I also picked up Go Deep by Rilsey Adams. I got this because of Riley from Riley Marie. She recommended it as like one of her favorite friends to lovers romances, and it's like a really short novella. Next up, I have A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. I picked this up for Chloe's Patreon book club pick, and I'm so glad I did because it's so beautiful and so beautifully written, and the story itself is super captivating. It's about one of Dracula's brides. It's from her perspective. Bisexual vampires, polyamorous relationships. It dives really deeply into abusive relationships and why it can be so hard to leave them. And the writing, God, it's so poetic and lyrical and beautiful, and oh, so good. I'm so glad that Chloe picked this or put this as like an option on her Patreon because I probably never would have heard of it otherwise. Then I have my book of the month books for June. So my book pick for June was Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I have read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six, and I liked both of those books, so I was definitely curious to see what this one is about. It's getting a ton of hype right now, but I haven't read any of her backlist books, which I might if I end up really liking this one. So that was my book pick for June. And then I added on Arsenic and Adobo by Mia P. Manansala because this is my friend Jan's book club pick for June. She has a book club called the Full Moon Book Club. I get so tongue-tied saying all that. I don't know why. Every time I talk about the Full Moon Book Club, I get tongue-tied. But yeah, I picked this up because I wanted to watch the live show for that and know what they were talking about, and this one just seemed like it would be a cute, fun read. It's like a cozy mystery, so I picked that. And then I also added on Normal People by Sally Rooney. I wanted to read this because Chloe from Books with Chloe and Caitlin from Kate Literature were talking about it in one of their recent like 24-hour readathon vlogs, and it's one of Caitlin's favorite books, and Chloe was like bawling when she was reading it in her 24-hour readathon vlog, and so I was like, I don't even know what it's about, but I want to know what it's about, so I added this so that I could read it. Since we're talking about Chloe so much, I also picked up The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher, which is Chloe's book club pick for June, and it's a horror novel, like a paranormal horror. I also heard Riley Marie really liked this one. So yeah, I picked that one up. Speaking of Riley Marie, again, I've picked up a couple books off of her recommendations. I picked up Hench by Natalie Zena Walschaerts. This is like a villain origin story where this girl gets absolutely brutalized by a hero, a superhero, and she's like trying to tell people like heroes mostly just destroy things. They're not actually that helpful, and people turn the other cheek because they're superheroes. And so she's like out for vengeance, and that sounded amazing. And Riley said that she gave this book 5 stars and that she really loved it, so I was super curious to pick it up, so I grabbed it. Also, at a garage sale, I found The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. I'm super keen to pick this one up because it's set in Alaska, and when I was reading Credence by Penelope Douglas, it's like set on this mountain in Colorado, super secluded. I absolutely loved that setting, and I feel like Alaska is gonna give some of that same setting feels. I know Kristen Hanna writes like very emotional stories, and I'm just curious now because I read The Nightingale by her last year, and I did end up loving that book, so I'm curious to read more from her. So when I saw this for $1, obviously I picked it up. Next up, I have Verity by Colleen Hoover. This book says that it is a standalone romantic thriller, which has me curious. And I've seen a few people picking this up recently. I know this was super popular when it first came out a couple years ago. So I'm just interested to see what romantic thriller means. I'm curious. And the synopsis makes it sound really cool. Yeah, I haven't really read very much Colleen Hoover. I've read It Ends With Us and maybe one other book by her that I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure that I liked her writing. It's been a while since I've read any Colleen Hoover, so we'll see on this one. And then the last book that I'm going to talk about for this haul is not here yet. I don't have my physical copy, but I have ordered it and it should be here tomorrow, so I figured I would include it. And I'll just pop a picture up on the screen here. So it is Moonshot. Oh shoot, now I don't know who it's by. Alessandra Torres. I don't remember who the author is. I didn't write it down. I'm sorry. It'll be up on the screen here though, but it is a sports romance following a coach's daughter and a baseball player. I'm just in such a mood for romance lately, if you can't tell by all the books I've been buying lately, but I'm so excited to read that one. Also, sports romances, like, I have a thing for sports romances, it seems, and it doesn't really matter what the sport is, because I read the Deal series by Elle Kennedy, which is hockey. Tryst 6 Venom by Penelope Douglas actually has like a sports element to it because they both play on the same lacrosse team. From Lugov with Love, they're ice skaters. Yeah, I'm here for it. So sports romances, who knew? All right, so those are all of the books that I bought in the last 3 months. So there's 34 that I have physically here, and then I bought Moonshot, so 35, Rivals, 36, Until You, 37. I think that's it. 37 books. That's a lot. It's a lot for me. So yeah, that is going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, you can let me know by liking and subscribing down below, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye!